Imagination. Everybody is talking about it as if it's the engine of creation. They say, just visualize, just picture it, just see it, and then you'll have it. But if it were that simple, then everybody would be living the life that they imagined years ago. So why don't they? It's because imagination, it doesn't create reality. It designs it. It builds the blueprint. But the blueprint only becomes real when your state of being agrees to construct it. And the problem is that most people, they use imagination like it's a wish list and not a design tool. And they close their eyes and they picture themselves in the life that they want, but deep down they feel that same fear, that same uncertainty and the same disbelief. And what the field hears isn't the image, it's the vibration beneath the image. And you can't build stability on contradiction. You can't imagine abundance while you're vibrating lack of abundance. You can't picture love whilst you're broadcasting the fear of being alone. And the field, it doesn't read your words or your pictures. It reads your coherence. And that's why imagination on its own just fails, because imagination without coherence is just a fantasy. But when imagination and state align, imagination becomes architecture. It's how consciousness designs matter. I like to think of imagination as the architect of your inner reality. It can draft the most beautiful plan that you've ever seen. But if your emotional foundation is unstable, the plan never becomes a structure. The builder walks off because the ground, it can't hold the design. Your state is the foundation. And imagination is the drawing. And emotion, well, we'll get there soon. It's the energy that powers construction. And we'll get to that. So when somebody just tells you to visualize your dream life, they're giving you a fraction of the truth. And yes, imagination is essential, but it's not the first step. You can't visualize clearly if your state is chaotic. You have to stabilize first. Only when your emotional frequency is steady does the imagination start producing the images that hold. And that's why so many people just feel exhausted by visualization. They try to imagine something that inside feels impossible. And every time that they picture it, they're reminded that it's not their reality. So instead of activating creation, they amplify lack. And the more that they visualize, the more that their mind reinforces that distance. But the truth is that imagination it's not supposed to be an effort. It's supposed to flow naturally from your state. And when your state is coherent, imagination becomes easy as play. It's spontaneous, alive, effortless. You don't visualize to force. You imagine to express. And the ancients, they understood this long before modern teachers have tried to commercialize it. In the ancient Vedantic texts, the mind, the manas, is described as the subtle instrument that forms images from consciousness. But those images, they don't manifest by themselves. They require alignment with buddhi, and that's the higher intelligence that knows what's real. And when mind and intelligence, they unify, imagination becomes creation. And that's what those ancient texts were pointing to. Even modern science, neuroscience, confirms this. The brain doesn't distinguish much between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. But this is the catch. It only registers as real when emotion is involved. And without emotion, imagination is like a sketch without any color. And that's why I say, feel it real. Because the emotion tells the nervous system that this is happening. That feeling when coherent with your state becomes the command that programs reality. So when you imagine, don't ask, can I see it? Ask if you can feel it. Does it feel real? If you can't feel it, don't force it. Just go back and stabilize your state first, because a clear imagination without the emotional agreement is just, it's like static on a radio. The signal, it just doesn't reach the field, the universe. I remember when I first started exploring this idea deeply, and I was reading the teachings of Neville Goddard, and he spoke about imagination being the creative power of God within us. And he was close, very close. But what I noticed was missing was that mechanical understanding. He taught that if you imagine it clearly and persist, it will happen. But he didn't explain why it often doesn't happen. And that's where manifestation mechanics, which I've coined as the title of this, it fills the gap, the missing link of stability, the stability of the operator, you, me. The imagination works perfectly, but only when the operator's vibration is coherent. When I was ill, and this is before I ever got the all clear, I'd lie in bed and I would try to picture myself walking freely, eating normally, laughing again. And some days it worked, but most it didn't. Because on the days when I felt weak or fearful, I was imagining from the wrong state. I could see the images, but I couldn't feel as if it was real. You see what I'm trying to say? My body didn't believe it. The frequency was split. Like, part of me hoped, but yet part of me doubted. And that split was plenty enough to delay manifestation of what I wanted. And it wasn't until I stopped forcing images and I started creating and cultivating peace that imagination began to move by itself. And when my state settled, the images, they felt real on their own. I didn't even need to push them. They just arrived effortlessly. And that's when the field responded. That's the secret. Effortless manifestation that is born from stability. And true imagination, it happens when your state is already aligned with the reality that you want. You don't need to visualize success. You live in the feeling of it, and the images, they arrive naturally. You see, imagination isn't about pretending. It's about rehearsing. Rehearsing reality from certainty. You don't imagine because you lack something. You imagine because you're expressing what already exists. What's already there within your frequency. And that's the shift from wanting to knowing. When your imagination starts to feel effortless, then you know that your coherence is forming. The visions, they just come with warmth, with clarity, with ease. You're not trying to believe them. You just know that they're real. And then the field, the universe, it mirrors that knowing. Now, if this is the first video of mine that you've found, first of all, welcome. What I am teaching here is part of a complete system. It's a framework that's called manifestation mechanics. And it explains manifestation not as a belief or luck, but as a real structured process of consciousness. Now, if you've already watched the first two videos on this channel, you'll understand how this fits into the bigger picture. And we began with the law of state, which is the foundation of all creation. I promise you that. And if you haven't seen that video yet, it would serve you to go back and well, after this video or now, and start from the very beginning of my videos, because each video is designed in sequence, like step by step, so that you can build up your understanding layer by layer. You can start here, of course, and I will catch you up on other things. But to see how these pieces really fit together, how each law builds on the next, then watching them in order will just give you a much deeper understanding of how the system works. So now let's go deeper into imagination itself while we're here. When people first learn about manifestation, they often start by trying to control their thoughts. Like they sit in silence and they try to paint pictures of the life that they want. But the problem is most of those images, they never leave the mind because they're not anchored in a vibration. The image might be clear, but the feeling is just hollow. An imagination without feeling is, it's like drawing a map with no terrain. It looks complete, but it doesn't really lead on the proper route. The truth is that your imagination is already active. It's always building most of the time. It's just building what you don't want because it's powered by your unconscious manifestation, your unconscious emotion. Like worry. Worry is imagination in reverse. Anxiety is imagination just replaying fear. And doubt is imagination erasing all possibilities. You are already imagining every moment of your life. But the question is, are you doing it consciously? The purpose of your imagination, it isn't to escape your reality. It's to update it, to align it, to design from a higher state of consciousness. You see, imagination is meant to create it shouldn't be used to try and create from scratch. Consciousness, it already holds every possible potential reality that there is. The role of imagination is to choose which one that you'll stabilize through your feeling. When you imagine a reality and it feels true, that's because you're not being forced to belief. It's because that your state, it matched the frequency of the potential. And that's why so many manifestation teachers, they miss it. They think that imagination is about seeing something new, but it's really just remembering something that actually already exists in the field. And you're tuning your state into it like a radio station. When I was healing, I didn't imagine being healed someday. I slowly, gently started to imagine the feeling of normality, sitting at a table, eating my favorite food with my family, walking outside with the sun on my face. And I didn't force those images. I just let them come. And it only happened when peace was present. And that's how imagination works. When it's aligned with state, it is effortless and it feels natural and real. And the key to this entire process is alignment. And alignment it's mechanical. When you stabilize your state, meaning your nervous system, your mind, and your emotions, when they're all coherent, imagination becomes a communication tool with creation itself. You don't send a wish, you send a signal. And the signal says that I am this now. But when your imagination runs before or ahead of your state, then the signal, it just distorts, and it's like trying to broadcast a clear image through static noise. You might get some flashes of it, you might feel hope for a moment, but the field, it can't build from confusion. The frequency just keeps collapsing back into your dominant vibration, your state. And that's why there's so many people that say, I visualize, and nothing's changing, because the system isn't reading the picture. It's reading the stability beneath it. Do you get what I'm saying? The process of conscious manifestation, it begins with silence, and you start not by picturing it, but by listening. You let your body settle. You breathe. You create a stable foundation, calm, neutral, and steady. And then, and only then do you allow the mind to paint. When the state is stable, imagination becomes easy. Images, they arise with clarity. And the moment that one of those images brings emotion, warmth, peace, joy, relief, then you've found coherence. That emotion is confirmation that your field and the blueprint, your state and the imagination, are aligned. In manifestation mechanics, I call that moment energetic resonance. It's when imagination stops being mental and it becomes vibrational. It's when the image and the frequency, they unify. And that's the bridge between the invisible and the visible. And it's important to understand that resonance it's not about excitement. It's not about a rush of energy or some overwhelming high. It's a feeling, a quiet feeling about certainty. A feeling about, yeah, this already exists. That's coherence. And this is why I say that you can't create what you can't feel real, because the feeling is the mechanical link between thought and manifestation. And without that emotional coherence, imagination stays just theoretical. It just never leaves the realm of concept. Let's go even deeper into this, on how you can begin retraining your own imagination to operate from alignment and not effort. If you want to train imagination to work with creation, not escape, there's a very simple sequence, and it's not a technique. It's a mechanical process. Like, a technique is something that you do to get a result. And a process is how reality already functions when you let it. So the first step is stillness. Now, before you imagine anything, you've got to clear any interference. And most people, they just skip this because they're just in a rush to see the results. And they sit down to visualize, but their mind is still vibrating with stress, with noise, with worry. And that's like it's like trying to paint a masterpiece on a canvas that's being shaken around. The image is always going to distort. So before you imagine, become still. Breathe. You feel your body. And don't just try to relax it. Just acknowledge what's there. Like if your chest feels heavy, then notice it. If your stomach feels tight, just notice that too. Just that act of awareness begins stabilizing your frequency, and the field begins to clear. And once you start feeling that sense of calm, that neutral state, that's when you invite imagination. And invite is the right word as well. You don't force it. You don't command it. You allow it, because imagination is not a tool that you can control. You must know that. I wish we could. You don't control it. Imagination, it's a natural movement of consciousness that responds to coherence. So instead of saying that I'm going to imagine my dream life, simply just let an image appear. It might be you sitting at a table, or walking in sunlight, or holding someone's hand. It doesn't matter what it is. What really matters is how it feels. When the image feels warm, calm, and peaceful, stay there. Don't analyze it. Don't decorate it. Just stay. Because that warmth is resonance. That's your field recognizing alignment. If the image feels empty or disconnected, don't force it. Don't say, I must feel something, because that'll just amplify the gap. You go back to stillness. You restabilize. And then you invite again. The key to this is the quality of the feeling, not the clarity of the image. And most people, they think that imagination works better the more detailed the image is, but the field, it don't care how clear the image looks. It responds to how stable it feels. You must get this. You could imagine a single symbol, or even a sense of presence. And if it feels real, then that's creation. And in manifestation mechanics, I call that emotional coherence. When you see, or what you see, and what you feel become one vibration. And at that moment, your imagination, it stops being mental and it starts being magnetic. How can I put this more simply? Okay. Here's a simple way to understand it. When imagination is unaligned, you are thinking about. When imagination is aligned, you are thinking from. You get that? Like, thinking about means that you're observing your desire from a distance. You're thinking about it. You can see it, but it's separate. You feel like you got to reach for it. But thinking from means that you've entered that vibration of that reality, that you no longer need to convince yourself if it's possible. It just already feels natural. That shift from about to from is everything. And that's exactly what Neville Goddard meant when he said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. He was describing a natural mechanic, not an act of pretending, but a return to coherence. When you think from the state, your imagination, it begins to self-organize itself. You don't have to decide what picture. Images arise that match the vibration automatically. You might see yourself smiling, laughing, standing tall, or you might not see much at all. Just you feel a sense of wholeness. That's still imagination. That's consciousness forming shape from your state. And the more often that you rest in that feeling, the stronger that pattern becomes. You're not repeating affirmations, you're rehearsing a vibration. And each time that you enter that resonance, the field becomes more familiar with your new signature. And soon that signature begins to reflect back through circumstances, from people, from events that happen in your life. But again, the key is stability, not intensity. Some people, they have powerful moments of imagination and they feel it deeply for a few seconds and then they lose it and they think it failed. Manifestation doesn't respond to short flashes of energy. It responds to consistent coherence. Like one candle lit steadily has more power than 1,000 that spark and burn out. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So you've got to practice holding simple, gentle images that feel true and stay with them long enough to sense the quiet joy beneath them. Don't chase excitement. Coherence feels calm, certainly not chaotic. And over time, your nervous system starts to believe the new signal. The body will follow the mind, and the field, it follows the body. And that's the order of creation. And this process, practice consistently, rewires your identity. You start seeing yourself differently, speaking differently, reacting differently. The imagination becomes integrated bang into your behavior. You're no longer visualizing to get something. You're imagining as a natural extension of who you are. And that's when imagination turns into embodiment. That's when it stops being visualization and it just becomes vision. And if you start this process and you find that your mind is fighting back, if you hear your mind saying things like, this isn't working, this is just fantasy, I want you to understand that that's natural. It's not failure. It's just friction. It's the old pattern. It's losing coherence. It's losing power. Don't argue with it. Don't affirm over it either. Just know it's there. Simply return to stillness and rebuild your resonance. And that's what mastery feels like. It's not control. It's just calm repetition. You're not trying to force reality to change. You're calibrating your inner system until change becomes inevitable. So the field doesn't reward effort. It rewards precision. And consistency. And that's the beauty of imagination when it's aligned with the state. It doesn't strain. It doesn't hope. And it doesn't demand. It just simply expresses, and reality follows. In the ancient Vedic texts, there's a simple but powerful concept. And that's the world that we see as a projection of the mind. And the mind itself is a projection of consciousness. And that means that imagination isn't something that you do. It's what consciousness is always doing. In ancient Indian Sanskrit, they call this manas. Manas, M-A-N-A-S, is the inner instrument that gives form to awareness. But even thousands of years ago, they warned that when manas is unsteady, it creates illusion. And only when it becomes still, when it listens to higher intelligence, buddhi, then does it start producing and projecting truth. And that's what we're really doing when we align imagination with state. We are returning the mind to its original function, not a restless storyteller, but a creative transmitter of truth. And modern science, interestingly, is starting to echo this in studies in neuroscience, in quantum biology. They can now show that the brain doesn't just imagine reality, it models it in the same circuits that register physical experience. When your imagination and your emotion, they sync, your body literally begins living that future now. Like hormones, neurotransmitters, cellular responses, they all start shifting to that imagined condition. You're not just believing in a new world. You are preparing your biology for it. And that's why imagination is sacred. It's not childish. It's the divine technology. When it's used without coherence, it creates confusion. But when it's used with coherence, as I've said before, it creates the bridge between thought and matter. And this is why I always say the mind cannot create what it can't feel as real. Because imagination just stops being a fantasy and it becomes memory. And I don't mean a memory of the past. I mean a memory of what is possible. And that's what feeling it really means. It means that your body remembers the future as though it's already happened. And once that happens, manifestation isn't something that you chase. It becomes the natural unfolding of coherence. The field reflects the pattern that you've stabilized. People call it synchronicity or coincidence. Fate. It's all the same thing. It's resonance fulfilling itself. If you've been struggling with manifestation, if you've been trying to visualize and it felt like that you're pretending, trust me, it's not because you're incapable. It's because your imagination has been running on static. You've been trying to transmit on an unstable frequency. But now you know how to stabilize. You know that before imagining that you must ground your state. You must allow silence. You must listen for resonance. And you must let images arise naturally and feel them into coherence. And that's the process. It's not a trick. It's not a ritual. It's not a motivational exercise. It's the mechanical truth of creation. It's simple. And if this is the first time that you're hearing these teachings, and I want you to know that this is a part of a complete learning journey. Please start with the law of state. The first videos that I released and the second. And then move through each one in sequence. Because every part is designed to build on the last, to take you from confusion to clarity, from forcing to flowing, from hoping to knowing. Because imagination, emotion, and embodiment, they're all part of one complete system. Manifestation mechanics. So in the next video, we will go into the third pillar, which is emotion. And we're going to look at how emotion isn't the problem. It's the current that powers the manifestation. And once you understand that, then you'll see how everything begins to move effortlessly in harmony. But for now, remember this. The field, universe, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't respond to what you picture. It responds to what you feel. When your imagination and your feeling, when they become one, creation is just automatic. You don't have to force life. You just become precise with it. My name is Dejorn Goldsmith, and this is Manifestation Mechanics. I'll see you on the next video.